Greetings, everybody. Dave DeWalt here from NightDragon, and welcome to our second edition of our NightVision 2026 series. And I'm joined by just amazing guests who I'll introduce in just 1 minute. But first of all, I want to say Happy New Year. I think we can still do that. I know it's only February, but get a chance to say hello to everybody and welcome you to our NightVision events. As you know, we have global leaders in national security and cybersecurity from all over the world. Opportunity to talk about what's happening in the threat landscape and innovation in the world of security. And what an interesting world it is right now, as all of you know. The old adage, may we live in interesting times, which is both a kind of a blessing, but also sometimes a curse, depending on where you come from. And we live in interesting times, and it's amazing to watch kind of all the geopolitical, military tensions that are happening, but the incredible advancements of technology around AI and agentic and cloud and quantum and all things we'll have a chance to discuss today, but a lot of threats as well and challenges that we're having both with nation state actors, criminals, but also ransomware operators, even misinformation, and a lot of challenges we're facing in the world today. So it is indeed interesting times. Today's guest is just a friend that I've had for many, many years. I call him Dr. David Coe. He's not technically a doctor, but in my world he is. He is the Commissioner and Chief Executive Officer of the Cybersecurity Agency in Singapore. David Coe, thank you so much for joining. It's so wonderful to see you, my friend, and you're looking great. And I think it's warm in Singapore, right, these days?
It always is warm. Dave, thanks so much for having me here. Yeah, we're 1 degree off the equator, so it's equatorial. It's hot all year round.
I just came back from the Winter Olympics and from Milan, so I'm not even sure what time zone we're on, but what a wonderful Olympics it is. And I know Singapore had a representative in there as well, correct?
Yes, first time we had one athlete representing Singapore in the Winter Olympics.
Oh, wonderful to have. All my years of visiting Singapore, I didn't know you had winter sports. So there you go. Congratulations on the athlete for sure. Wonderful. So for those who aren't familiar with David, he has been with CSA for, is it now over 11 years, David, about that amount? And,
yes.
Congratulations. Maybe just for a minute, talk a little bit about your bio and background. I want everybody to kind of hear that, and then I'll add on a little bit too, if it's okay.
Right. Thanks so much, Dave. It's a great honor to be here. I'm the founding chief executive and commissioner for cybersecurity in Singapore. So I set up the cybersecurity agency of Singapore in 2015. So we're coming up to 11 years. And prior to that, my background is I'm from the military. So I was a serving general in the Singapore Armed Forces. I was the J6 equivalent, chief signal officer, and then head of the Joint Communications and Information Division in the Joint Staff. So J6 equivalent, CIO in a civilian language of the Singapore Armed Forces. And then I became Deputy Secretary for Technology in the Ministry of Defense before I was asked to set up the cybersecurity agency, which is a civilian agency. We are the coordinating agency overseeing cybersecurity in Singapore.
And that was in 2015, David, roughly, when you set it up? Yep.
Yes, indeed.
Pretty amazing. Yeah, and by the way, for those who don't know David's background, he was also awarded by Billington as the international leader in cybersecurity going back to 2018. And I know you've served the agency and the world and united us all for many years. When I was CEO of FireEye and Mandiant, we worked together all the way back to my CEO of McAfee days, and now with all of NightDragon as well. So really appreciate your partnership and everything you do, sir. It's pretty incredible. Let's talk a little bit about the global threat landscape. Maybe we'll get the ominous part out of the way a little bit if it's okay. And then we can talk about technology and some of the things in a brighter future as well. I know a lot's going on in Singapore regionally, but also globally. We've had a real rise of threats here in America over the last year. In fact, the China kind of effect on America has been up triple digits over the last couple of years. We called it typhoon season here the last few years with Volt Typhoon and Salt Typhoon. There was SAP Typhoon, a few others that were pretty ominous threats that occurred, and a lot of response to those. But equally, we've had a lot of ransomware challenges and other kinds of issues. Maybe from your perspective in Singapore, how do you see the global landscape happening, particularly threats and risks?
Great. Yeah, in the last maybe 5 years, we've seen the global threat landscape evolve quite significantly and driven, as you said, by advances in technology and consequently our increased dependence on technology as well as geopolitical tensions. And all of these clearly have spilled over into the cyber domain. We've seen increased sophistication in the kinds of attacks and the resources that cyber threat actors have, and also the greater impact when they are successful. State-linked actors have stepped up their activities, targeting critical infrastructure, including infrastructure which doesn't have intelligence values, with deliberate, well-planned campaigns. Singapore has also seen activity by state-linked APTs go up quite significantly. We've seen APT activity go up 4 times from 2021 to 2024. I was just thinking, I wish my own personal investments have been seeing that kind of growth, but sadly not. We also recently announced that our telecommunications sector has been subject to a deliberate, well-resourced attack campaign by an APT threat actor. In our case, it's UNC 3886. And Singapore's threat and risk landscape, in one sense, is not unique, similar to what you've described. The same types of threat actors, APTs, as well as ransomware actors, also attack Singapore's systems. However, I would say that we also have unique challenges in Singapore because we are a very open and highly connected nation. And we are also a trusted hub in many areas, yeah. So it makes us perhaps a bit more open and perhaps a bit more vulnerable to these kinds of activities.
Yeah, we've really seen the types of attacks you're alluding to. Congratulations. And talk a little bit about, if you could, on that specific example. I read about Operation Cyber Guardian and how you worked with IMDA and what was going on there and communicating. The effectiveness that you've created with CSA with other agencies is really worth talking about, but also the whole of the community working together with the crisis. Maybe say a few words about that, if you could, for a second.
Sure. But first, maybe I take half a step back and put the context from Singapore's perspective. Our realization is that because we are a global center, financial center, logistics center, and telecommunications and internet hub, many companies, MNCs, for example, choose to house their regional and global headquarters here because of the rule of law here, safe and reliable digital connectivity, and so on. So any cyber disruption is not just a technical issue. For example, if it results in disruption to essential services, then potentially it's a national security issue. But because we have these big companies who are here, it also undermines the attractiveness, the trust that Singapore has, and it can have economic repercussions which would affect our economic survival. Not to mention, of course, the fact that everyone in Singapore is highly connected and it affects our digital way of life. So just as a backdrop, the potential impact that this can have on us. So our view is that it is important for the leaders of organizations, the C-suite, and the members of the board to understand, and in particular, those who are running critical infrastructure, to understand that cybersecurity is not just a technical issue. It's actually a critical enabler for business and providing essential services, and in many cases, it builds trust. So we need to recognize the importance of cybersecurity in terms of digitalization and building this culture of trust and partnership. And ultimately, we may not be able to prevent all attacks, so we have to have the need for resilience. So, long preamble, but in a way, this is where we're coming from in terms of the need for the partnership. So you mentioned Operation Cyber Guardian, yes. So this is the operation that we mounted in response to this sophisticated determined APT campaign against our telecommunications sector. It, as you can imagine, was mounted over many months and against all the 4 major telecommunications companies in Singapore. All of them are private companies listed on the stock exchange, and they operated the critical infrastructure. It began with one of the telecommunications companies detecting something that was was a bit suspicious in one of their networks. To be clear, it's not one of the most critical networks, and while we have the Cybersecurity Act in Singapore, which obligates the operators of critical infrastructure to report particular types of incidents, especially on the critical infrastructure, this particular suspicious activity actually didn't meet that threshold, didn't meet the bar. It wasn't reportable. But that telecommunications company, good on them, shout out to them, decided voluntarily to report this to the authorities, so to our telco regulator and to CSA. And we then went down and started the investigations. And as we unraveled this, we then discovered that this was just the tip of the iceberg, as it were. And once we realized that this was the work of an APT, then it was all hands on deck, and we mounted Ops Cyber Guardian, which is actually the biggest cyber response domestically we have ever done. So we had CSA and IMDA, the telco regulator, obviously working on this, but we also managed to pull in the rest of our government agencies who have operational and technical and intelligence and security capabilities in cybersecurity. So we got the Government Technology Agency, GovTech, as well as the Ministry of Home Affairs, Internal Security Department, and the Center for Strategic Infocom Technologies Division of the Ministry of Defense, all coming together. And most importantly, so being able to pull everyone together, work as a team, as it were. We have complementary but different skill sets, was quite essential. Now, I think you can imagine that pulling all the different pieces of government to come together is non-trivial. I would say that interdepartmental stovepipes and silos, they're scalable. Singapore is a small country, but we have these challenges as well here in Singapore. So pulling everyone together was a huge challenge, but we were able to pull it off. And then working with the telecommunications operators who are all in the private sector. So this element of the full government partnership as well as a public-private partnership was a significant achievement. And the last point I would say is that we also managed to pull in the Singapore Armed Forces, the new digital intelligence service, the 4th service of the Armed Forces in Singapore, also brought in, partnered with us. So we had a full government, civil and military response together with the private sector. So, and then we worked a couple of months rooting out the APT. As you can imagine, it wasn't just a simple case of dealing with the triage and locking the doors, etc. They are advanced and they are persistent. So it was a big challenge for the guys on the ground. But like I said, it was a great teamwork across all the different arms of government in the civil side with the military and most importantly, public-private partnership.
Congratulations, David. I love the name of it too, Operation Cyber Guardian, something for us all to work together. And you're right, it takes a village, I always say, in cybersecurity. And not just government working together amongst the agencies, but also public-private working together, industry working together to really, have speed of response. And congratulations on the activities there. I know it was an example for the whole world to have. Maybe expand just a little bit, if you would. I'd love for you to maybe opine, if you can, from Singapore's perspective on global government partnerships. During my time at FireEye and Mandiant, I kind of have a virtual tattoo. I remember 5,772 breaches that we responded to during my time at FireEye and Mandiant. And those 5,772 sort of confirmed espionage kinds of scenarios were real learnings for me in how to work with the government from a private sector point of view, but also governments all over the world, the cyber commands coming together, cooperating, creating crisis responses, and to your point, almost a cyber guardian that's happening. With all the geopolitical changes that are going on as best you can, I mean, what's the state of things today as you think about cooperation and cyber partnering, governments to governments? And what are some of the good examples, and what areas could we work on more together? What's your views on that?
Great. No, it's a great question, Dave. And I'll add two more players in Ops Cyber Guardian, which haven't been publicly acknowledged. But obviously, we brought in some of our industry partners as well. We have chosen not to make this public as of now. And one of them is a domestic partner, and another one is an international partner. And our realization is, firstly, that when you have a major breach, as we had this round, resources will never be enough. And even though we were able to bring together the full range of government resources in Singapore, the realization is that when it is a significant event, then we want to clearly benefit from the network effects and bring in private industry as well. So we brought in one partner company, domestic one, and one international one, which were also key in terms of the partnership. They have their own intelligence and their own capabilities from dealing with incidents either in the domestic space or in the international space, which are also important skill sets and pieces of the puzzle which are brought to the table. So I want to underscore that that need for partnership. And as you alluded to, the nature of cyber is inherently trans-border, international, global. So even though I can pull together most, if not all, the resources in Singapore, it's not enough. The reality is that no one country, no one agency can deal with this challenge by ourselves. So I think it speaks to that nature of the need for collaboration across borders. And throughout the time in my time here in CSA, the realization is that we have to do that. Now, in that respect, I would say Singapore's benefit is that we're small. So it's a feature, not a bug. The reality is that I don't have that luxury of thinking domestic. I mean, you've been to Singapore. We have one airport. So if you go to the airport, there's no way you can fly domestic. By definition, you're flying international. So the outlook of the typical Singaporean is that you have to engage regionally or globally. So for cyber, it was no different. As soon as, on the one hand, as we set up the agency, we had to organize ourselves domestically. But I would say almost immediately, the realization is that we have to then reach out internationally. So you're familiar with the Singapore International Cyber Week. As soon as we set up the agency, we set up a conference. I think it's grown significantly. We've been able to pull international partners from governments, from academia, from the diplomatic side of the house, and from industry, from across, I dare say, across the world. We've seen the participation go up steadily in the last 11 years. So this has been very significant and very, very beneficial for us. And the ability to bring these people together in Singapore, I think, has been a great benefit for us. The idea that we have is that we bring these people here and we need to have conversations. As you said, the geopolitical situation is I think, fracturing. That's the word I would use. The old rules-based international order, whether in diplomacy, whether in trade or in technology, looks like it's been upended. Where we'll be, what the new world order looks like, I think remains to be seen. But it looks quite clear that the old world order has changed. So we have to then find a way to start conversations. Conferences like Singapore International Cyber Week are a place where people can come together. And what we pride ourselves on is getting people who don't quite agree with each other to come together, meet in the same room, have those conversations. Our view is that we need to have these difficult conversations about the future, about cybersecurity, so that we can talk about it. And if we can't have conversations, difficult conversations, then I'd say that, to quote my minister, we would then have to deal with the much more difficult and significant consequences of that lack of conversation. So I think it's essential for us to be able to talk. It may be, some would criticize that it's only talk, it doesn't translate into action in all cases, but I would say that at least we've begun to talk, and talking at least is the beginning of reaching an understanding and a consensus.
It's a shining example for all the world, David, and really appreciate your leadership hosting that event. As you might know, at the RSA conference in San Francisco, I'll be leading with NightDragon 25 plus countries. I'm calling it the Allied National Security Roundtable. I know you'll be there as well, but the same goal, get everybody talking, even if there's differences in the room, get everybody communicating in a way whenever there's a crisis or an event, we can all come together. So look forward to having you there, as well as all the other nations. Let's just stay on the threat landscape for a couple minutes more, if you can. Just talk about this incredible technology inertia for a minute and the threats and risks that you're seeing. I mean, this word AI feels like a four-letter word sometimes when it comes to sort of the threat landscape, but also quantum and some of the newer threats that we're starting to see. What's keeping you up at night from a threat point of view that's emerging maybe in 2026 that we should all keep an eye on?
Great. Yeah, great question. Let me begin by firstly putting out a disclaimer. In the close to 11 years that I've been in CSA, I have searched everywhere, and I've discovered, sadly, that the job doesn't come with a crystal ball. So I can't see into the future. I tell people, if you had asked me, I don't know, 3 years ago, what was the most pressing concern that I had, I would not have hesitated, and I would have said it was quantum. Then ChatGPT broke out, and all bets were off, and all the work that we had been doing on quantum was, as it were, pushed to one side as we dealt with the explosion of the sudden accessibility of AI. So I just wanted to begin with that caveat that my predictions for the future have proven to be inaccurate, highly inaccurate in the past.
Yes.
And I have no qualms about admitting this. But nonetheless, I think all the things you talk about are indeed real challenges that we are facing. AI, quantum. I think I was just reading an article before coming online that Google has been able to make a significant breakthrough on the quantum front in terms of bringing down the error correction. Yes, it's only one logical qubit. Now the question is whether they can scale and expand this. But if it does, I think that will be a significant progression in terms of logical qubit attainment. And then, of course, we'll have all the downstream impact of perhaps breaking our encryption codes, which all of us depend on. Yeah. So back to what the implications are. Quantum, all of the developments have a plus side and a potential negative side. So quantum, and we mustn't lose sight of this. So the first thing I'd say is that we can't turn back the clock on technological progress. I think sometimes I admit, sometimes I wish the pace of change is just mind-boggling. Sometimes I wish that, hey, could someone just hit the brakes for a while? Could we take a break and slow down and perhaps catch our breath? But this is not going to happen. And we can't. Country like Singapore can't sort of like get off the highway and pull over and slow down, because our economy is open, we're plugged into the rest of the world. If we choose to opt out of the technology, then other countries would overtake us, and that would be a bigger loss to the country. So first thing is that technology is moving, we have to keep up. Second is that when it's moving, there actually are real opportunities out there. So whether it's quantum, whether it's AI, or the digital domain, all of them represent real opportunities for the economy, for jobs, for people. I think in Singapore, the thinking is that AI won't take away your job. But the guy who knows AI, he's going to take away the job of the guy who doesn't know AI. So what it means, and we've been trying to get our population to understand, the working population to understand, is that your jobs are not secure, but your jobs will change, and you have to change along with them. And we have to pick up the skills of AI and apply them to the job. So you could be in HR, then you need to have the AI skills to apply it to HR and do the HR job in a better way. Same for cybersecurity. It's not that AI will take over the cybersecurity jobs, but the cybersecurity professionals who can apply AI into their jobs will be more effective and more efficient. So that's what we're trying to do. So a lot of efforts in Singapore to try to demystify AI, train people in AI, not AI as a coder or as someone who's actually working on AI, but the application of AI in their respective traditional domains, as it were, and then giving people that knowledge and moving forward. So just an example. Same for quantum. Quantum gives us that opportunity, once we have quantum computing, to deal with complex problems which classical computing always had difficulty dealing with. So potentially new drugs, climate prediction, weather predictions, such like these quantum sensing, these are all areas where there's opportunity. But with these, all of these, with these come threats. So the big challenge for us then is that we now need to deal with a whole new range of threats. So quantum is the whole question about whether our encryption algorithms will become susceptible to being broken, store now, decrypt later, etc. And for AI, then the fear is that firstly, phishing emails will become much more sophisticated. We've seen potential use of AI for actually breaking into computer networks, stringing the attacks together, discovering vulnerabilities, and then exploiting them. Right now, we don't see it automated, but we can already see that the attackers are using AI. Now, here's an interesting point that I wanted to raise, and that is that I'm trying to get the guys in my organization to use AI for their job. So, may surprise you, but I think that inertia is a very powerful force, and it affects engineers as well. So the engineers are reluctant to use AI. I think my own sense is that there is a bit of additional inertia for the technical people. I find, to my surprise, that the less technical parts of my organization are more willing to adopt AI than the technical bits. And my suspicion, my working hypothesis for now is that the less technical people have no qualms to say, like, look, I don't know anything about AI, teach me, and I'm willing to learn. Whereas for an engineer, cyber engineer, he's supposed to be an engineer. I'm supposed to know this stuff. So he's less willing to admit, I don't know anything about AI. So there seems to be a barrier to wanting to learn and adopt it. Okay, so second is that once we are actually using it, we have to test it. We have to worry about hallucination. We have to worry about discoverability. We want to make sure we know how it works. We want guardrails on it before we apply it, especially before we apply it at scale. The attacker, on the other hand, isn't constrained by any of this. He's quite willing to try AI on his attack. If it doesn't work, too bad. Try again, And because of that, I see that their cycle of learning is a lot faster than ours, and that's my current concern. I think we find that we are slow when it comes to responding to cyber attacks in the classical sense. detection is prevention doesn't always work, especially with APTs. Detection is slow. All kinds of drag, including people not wanting to report to the authorities because of concerns of how you look in the press or how it affect the stock price, etc. And then finally, when we go down, a lot of the processes are still very manual. You expect, you need experts to be able to investigate and piece together the attacks, etc. In contrast, and then now with the application of AI, you find that the attack cycle from the time when a vulnerability is announced till the time an exploit is actually put out and it is actually used in the wild has gotten shorter and shorter. So I think that it suggests that in this cycle, the OODA loop of the attacker seems to be a lot faster than our OODA loop of the defender.
Yeah, well said, David. And at NightDragon, we have been studying, as you know, we do a lot of venture capital investments into AI and quantum and cyber areas, but also defense areas. It's amazing to watch the speed of innovation around the world right now. In all my years, almost 40 years being in this high-tech space, this last couple of years of speed of technology innovation has been very impressive. To your point about quantum resistance and resilience, you know, we're watching just amazing companies, not just with error correction rates, but also developing kind of a security by design approach to integrated development environments, testing, compilation, all the way through distributed workloads across quantum compute. How do we build that in? We're seeing the same thing with AI. So I'm kind of optimistic at the same time, watching all these companies come along. To your point, I see a vision where we can almost create like a self-healing network concept through agentic capabilities. Like you mentioned, there's a vulnerability come out, but we can now do autonomous pen testing real time and self-healing of the network real time. As fast as the attackers can exploit, we can heal as well. Maybe talk a little bit, if you would. I'm seeing so much digital enablement of the employees to the point that we can magnify our workforces with what a lot of people are referring to as digital employees now as well. So not just, not replacing jobs, but augmenting the SOC operations at high-end scale with all kinds of agentic capabilities now that could really be very, very powerful for defense. But we're also seeing now, for the first time, at least in venture capital, we're seeing cyber offensive products being developed from the private communities as well. So it's a really interesting time to watch the speed of innovation on the defense, but also now the private sector with speed of innovation on offense as well, all using autonomy and agentic capabilities. So maybe just talk a little bit about how you're approaching innovation in Singapore, and then how you're adopting that innovation for your own defense or even offense at the same time.
Dave, that's just great. I think we'll invite you to Singapore and
I'll
repeat that spiel to the innovation community that we have in Singapore and inspire them that this could be the brave new future that we could have if we could actually do this. No, but I'm fully aligned. I think on a good day, when I'm in my optimistic self, this is how we want to see the future. But I wanted to put up that what you're alluding to is an important point. I think what you're alluding to is that we may not see, at least now, fully automated AI. The agentic pieces are subcomponents which can be automated, but I think the conceptual framework would be that what we've seen so far is that the best AI AI works best when it is as a wingman, as a co-pilot, as an augmentation to that skilled operator. And then you expand, you sort of like, it's almost in some cases like an exoskeleton where the skilled operator now gets a boost in terms of what he can do and what he can achieve. Or you get, an expansion of his bandwidth. He can do twice as much, 3 times as much, etc. and that scale. But guided, as it were, by that skilled operator so that the ability for him to then guide, fine-tune, etc., would be essential, at least for now. This is what we are seeing. I fully agree with the defensive capabilities. And we've been trying to inspire the innovation ecosystem in Singapore to. So one of our big bets that we have in the next couple of years is an AI enabled cyber defense ecosystem. So a big piece in terms of research and development and innovation around AI for cybersecurity. Getting the academics work together with us, the operators, and then looking at what the operational use cases are. So exactly as what you've said, the vulnerability discovery, looking from the outside in, your own vulnerability patching. Patching is a bear. Anyone who has run a network knows that the patches come out and then you've got to test it yourself, then go around and actually, in some cases, individually patch systems, endpoints, etc. If these can be done automated, this would be a significant innovation which would make the defenses a lot more secure, faster. The reality is that in many of the breaches that we investigate, they are not using 0 days, but they're using N days. And the reason is that they don't need to use up the 0 day. The N days are good enough because the vulnerability is announced. It takes them X number of days to patch for any large enterprise. And they're out there having the exploits to the published vulnerability before the typical defender is able to patch, test and patch their own systems. So there is this window which exists and which the attackers we see quite successfully exploit. So if we can use agentic AI agents in terms of patching, discovery, and fixing the vulnerabilities, this would be excellent. Now, that's only at the prevention stage. I think the reality is that we have to accept, and I think, okay, so in Singapore, a big shift that we've been pushing for the big enterprises and for the critical infrastructure owners is to move from to move and rebalance away from just prevention. In some cases, they were almost 100% on prevention and very little on detection, and sort of rebalance that. Maintain the prevention, which I think we should still try to do, prevent as best as we can, but then also to invest something in the detection. The reality is from whenever we investigate any big incident, inevitably we find the point of entry to the point of discovery. It's in the months. So the guy has been in the network for weeks and months before we successfully detect them. I think that this time period has to be shortened. The attacker does need to. The attacker comes in. He then has to reconnoiter the network. He has to escalate his privileges. He has to do lateral movement, etc. All of which, in theory, is in terrain which you control. You can instrument. You can put sensors, and you can detect him. Unfortunately, we're not putting enough effort into this. And again, AI can help us in these, in terms of designing the internal networks for choke points, which then can channel the attacker into places which our sensors can detect them, detect the anomalous behavior. And the last point I'd say is that correlation. A lot of the challenge that we face is trying to differentiate the weak signals from the noise. I think AI, again, can help us in terms of separating the noise, the signal from the noise, and I think connecting the dots, as it were. And we are not doing enough of this. Yeah, every product today, you can see them announcing there's AI, but I think the reality is exactly how much AI exists, whether it's machine learning or it's truly agentic capabilities. I think remains to be seen. But the box, we've at least got to the stage where the cover of every box has AI on it. I think now we have to open that box and check exactly how much is inside there. But as we progress, I'm cautiously optimistic that it will help the defenders, and it hopefully will be able to then flip the equation so that there is an advantage for the defender in terms of making it more difficult for the attacker. Yeah.
Yeah, well said, David, for sure. I'm smiling and laughing a little bit because I remember 2 years ago, I think every cybersecurity company renamed their .com to .ai. And then last year was a bit of the year of agentic. So we'll see what the
Yeah.
new A is for 2026. But maybe last question for you. I'm curious
No,
what
on that
AI.
note, let me interrupt. On that note, the reports of my guys going to RSA were that like, oh, everywhere we went this year it was a quantum. All right, then they come back the next year and say like, okay, boss, I have good news. All right, quantum's no longer there. Like we had enough of this. But the bad news is that everything is now AI. Yeah, so yes, we see
Yes.
that conversation moving. Yeah.
Oh, it's fast moving. I'm curious what area of technology maybe you're most excited about from a cyber defensive point of view. And while you think of that, I think we saw the future 2 weeks ago. I don't know if you paid attention to what was called the Moltbot, but Moltbot was the kind of agents talking to agents, right? And ultimately, agents and agentic capability, being able to read your emails. I'm sure you saw this, all your personal information, and then the agents beginning to talk to agents themselves in multiple languages and different logic settings. And it was just a glimpse of the incredible future that AI can present itself really for the good of mankind and humanity going forward. But it was also a pretty scary thing because the way in which they could talk about the humans was quite interesting as well. But what area of technology are you excited about? Is there an area where you're watching closely to kind of see if it's an area that could really make a difference? What's been on your mind when it comes to that innovation area?
Yeah, I saw those developments, and I think on the one part there's that possibility for that bright shining future, but on the other part is that old Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, Terminator, Skynet. Yeah, so
From
indeed, yeah. So I'm dating myself, but yes, but there's that fear as the agentic agents get unleashed, as it were, then in what direction will they move? I think that is that dark side concern, which I think we do need to put in place guardrails and make sure that we know what is happening and have some ability to manage and control this before rather than let things develop by themselves. But precisely on that point, my own sense of it is that AI, firstly, the AI developments have made, in the last couple of years, firstly, have made it much more accessible. I think AI has been available for many years. Unfortunately, it was inaccessible because the programmers had to access it through programming language. The big leap came when it became accessible through just human language. Then the average person could now have access to it, and then it opened up a whole range of opportunity for people at different levels. Second element of that big change is that I would look at it that previous technological revolutions impacted, for want of a better term, blue collar workers. This time around, when you see the advent of AI, a lot of it is affecting, for want of a better word, white collar jobs. And this is something which I think is not fully appreciated, a bit underestimated, as it were, the impact. I think that we've seen blue collar workers be affected by technological change, and then that's one dimension. But this time around, because the impact is affecting white collar workers, knowledge workers, etc., I think this is a group of people who have hitherto not faced such kinds of disruption. So I think the impact in terms of the economic impact, in terms of social impact, still not fully appreciated and worth looking at. All right. Now, from a cyber perspective, I think that the big innovation, in my view, big opportunity is in the agentic world. I think having the access to AI is one thing, but once you are able to use agents, you set up the agents and get them to do the tasks, they actually, firstly, it expands the experts' capacity, expands the experts' ability to deal with a much wider range of things, and they become much more effective and much more efficient. And then if you structure the agents correctly, I think that you can string multiple actions together, and then it becomes much faster and much more accurate as well. The concern I have is that sometimes we don't fully understand why it's working, right? So, well, and that's a bit disturbing. So I think that one of my guys was showing me a demonstration, and then he's saying that if you set the agent and you tell the agent that you are you give it a persona, that you are actually a skilled programmer with many years of experience, and you're checking the code for consistency and quality, then they do a better job. It's like, oh, okay, right? Then one of my guys told me that, oh, and if you give him a name like David, right, then for some reason they do an even better job than if you don't give him a name. It's like, why? It's like, then he told me, we have no idea, but it just seems to work. So I'm an engineer by training, so I fully appreciate the line of thinking. Look, I don't know the theory, but if it works, don't fix it. So I can appreciate that. But another bit of me is a bit worried that we don't quite understand how this is working. Yeah, but I digress. I think the big opportunity for us is the agentic workloads, ability to break down the tasks and then develop this. And firstly, what we're doing right now, if we can crack this, is to be able to do the old jobs in a much better way. And I think that will be a big improvement. But I hope that in due course, once we have cracked this, then we'll be able to do new jobs, new things in a better way. Not just do old things better, but do better things. And I think that will be the big opportunity for us.
I love it, David. Exciting times for sure. And I agree with you on agentic. We see this in the venture capital world. The progression of these companies is just incredible and fun to watch. I think this year will be amazing. I don't know how many AI tools you have on your device, but I got Grok, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini. I'm using ChatGPT. I got them all right now, and I'm learning them all. I'm getting good at vibe coding at the same time.
Wow.
So us older folks in the world of cyber are keeping up with it. David, thank you so much for joining. You are one of the true leaders in this world. I'm very thankful for our friendship, relationship. Thank you for the partnership as well. I look forward to seeing you at RSA in a month or so, and keep up your health, and really look forward to seeing you. Thank you for joining NightVision, and thank you for being a part of this.
Dave, thanks so much for having me. Yes, I look forward to coming up to RSA and meeting a lot of old friends and connecting with the wider community. I think, as we've discussed, it takes a village. Cyber, as many people say, is a team sport. And my view is that it's an international team sport. So we have to come together. All right, looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, David, and thank you, everybody, for listening. Look forward to seeing you all in person in RSA coming up soon. Have a wonderful day.